For the better part of 3 years, Rivers State, which is home to arguably the largest deposits of Nigeria's hydrocarbon industry, has been the center of pervasive violence. Misunderstanding among some of the state's political elite has been blamed for the mayhem culminating in last week's state of emergency imposed on the state by President Bola Tinubu. In 2024, for instance, the State House of Assembly building came under attack, which led to major structural defects and eventual demolition by now suspended Governor Siminalayi Fubara. There are also questions regarding who exactly has been responsible for the latest spate of bombings of oil installations in the state. Dr. Robinson Ewor is acting chairman of the Rivers State chapter of the People's Democratic Party. He joins us now to discuss this timeline of violent incidents and how to ensure the return of peace to the oil-rich state. Great to have you on Newsday. Thank you so much for joining us on the program.
Thank you very much for having me.
Let's start, with the bombing. Why is it so difficult to unravel the identity of those responsible for the bombing of the State Assembly, which led to its structural defects and eventual demolition by Governor Fubara?
Okay, clearly, when the bombing happened in 2023 at the State House of Assembly, the police quickly squirmed into action. The police made some arrests. At least 5 persons were arrested by the police, and they were all transferred to the forces headquarters in Abuja. They were subsequently charged to an Abuja High Court, and they were later transferred to Port Harcourt Division of the Federal High Court. But the police didn't follow up the matter, and the matter was struck out early this year. It's not as if the identity of what happened was hidden. The police actually made arrests. It's for the police to attend court and prosecute those that were arrested if they were actually those involved.
Well, the bombing surely caused disruptions of the state's legislative branch of government due to the building not being there. What are some of the legal implications thus far, and of course the political fallout for Governor Fubara, because it seems as though this was when most, if not all, the trouble started?
The bombing of the State House of Assembly itself is not the beginning and end of the matter. Of the crisis was when the 27 lawmakers said they were going to impeach the Governor Sim Fubara. It was because the action was on, the bombing in the State House of Assembly took place. Subsequently, the 27 lawmakers defected on their own to the All Progressive Congress. Before this time, that was December in 2023. Before this time, the House was in order. They were all sitting. When the House of Assembly was bombed, they moved to the House of Assembly quarters, and they used the auditorium there for their sitting. The governor, even before they moved to the House of Assembly quarters, asked them to sit in one of the buildings in the old government house. We have the old government house and we have the new government house. They were asked to use one of the old buildings in the government house, but they all moved to the House of Assembly quarters auditorium. They were sitting there peacefully until December 11th, 2023, that they defected to the All Progressive Congress. It was their defection that now gave rise to the other faction of the assembly led by then Edison Dehie as Speaker. When he resigned to take the office of the Chief of Staff, Victor Okojombo now took over. This was exactly what happened. It was their defection that gave rise to the other faction.
No, very well said. You've talked about their defection being the basis for the crisis, but then there are other questions that have arisen. For instance, what were the motivations behind the bombing of the State Assembly? Were there any warning signs? Were there intelligence reports that could have prevented the attack? And also, what measures did Governor Fubara take before this emergency rule to rebuild the State Assembly and restore its functionality?
If you follow up on Rivers State politics, in 2013-2014, there was a crisis in the State House of Assembly. I was then a member of the House. Because of that crisis, the hallowed chamber of the State House of Assembly was destroyed, 2013-2014. And for that reason, we could no longer sit in the hallowed chamber. We now moved to the old government house auditorium. We were sitting in the old house auditorium for the rest of the tenure of Rotimi Amechi, at least for 2 years. This wasn't the first time. This wasn't the first time. The first was in 2013-2014, when the same FCT minister orchestrated an impeachment led by just by 5 members of the House. Evans VP was one of them. Kelechi was one of them. Victor Ewor was one of them. They came, invaded the House in company of the police to impeach the Speaker. There was crisis. It was because in this crisis that Chideloy nearly killed Emo Ochinda. This wasn't the first time. But as we speak today, if you go to the Rivers State House of Assembly, it is 80-90% completion. It's not as if the governor didn't take action. The governor took action. The project is ongoing. It will be completed in no time.
And Dr. Ewor, let's switch from one bombing to another. The recent bombings of the oil pipelines are significantly destabilizing River State politics and just causing an unnecessary uproar. From your perspective, who do you believe is responsible for these attacks? And what evidence, if any, do you have to support your claims? No. As I speak to you, there has been no bombing in River State. They claim that the bombing took place in Gokana, Trans-Calabari pipeline. There was no bombing. It was a little leakage in that pipeline, that suction of pipeline, and the company later came and fixed it. There was no bombing at all. And even as I speak to you, no bombing has taken place in the state of Rivers. Across the 23 local governments, there was no bombing anywhere. They used that incident to deceive the president into declaring a state of emergency. Go to that place, send your officers, send your delegation. There was no bombing at all. And up to date, no bombing in any part of River State.
So if what you're saying then is true, shouldn't the security agencies actually step in and investigate this matter? What are your thoughts on that?
We have the police in River State. We have the army, we have the navy, we have all of them. We have the JTF, Joint Task Force, all of them are here. Let them go to the venue and confirm to Nigerians that bombing took place in the venue. We live in River State. We know the things that happen in River State. And I'm telling you authoritatively that no bombing takes place in River State. Even as I'm speaking to you, no bombing has taken place in this state.
Okay, that's good to clarify. But I want to now talk about this declaration of the state of emergency in River State. It's been described as exacerbating an already volatile situation. What's your own reaction to this, and how necessary can we value the impact of this state of emergency on River State and the people of River State, who are clearly the ones who are most affected by all of these policies?
Okay, clearly, as a party, as a people, as citizens of the state, we condemn that proclamation, the declaration of state of emergency in River State. Because if you go to the Constitution, what I'm holding is a copy of the Constitution. Section 305 set out the conditions that a state of emergency can be declared. One of it is that Nigeria must be at war. Or 2, there must be imminent danger of war to happen in this country. 3, that there is the likelihood of total breakdown of law and order, or there is a total breakdown of law and order. Going forward, the governor can request, if there are prevailing situations in the state that you require a declaration of state of emergency, to the president. None of these conditions is prevalent in Rivers State as we speak. You cannot find one, a single one of them, listed in section 305 of the Nigerian Constitution. The question is, where and how did the president arrive at the declaration of the state of emergency? All the things that is happening in this state is known to everybody, both journalists, non-journalists, both citizens, and those resident in Rivers State. Everybody knows the crisis in Rivers State. The crisis in Rivers State is that FCT Minister Nyesom Wike said he assisted Sim to be governor of the state. He assisted the State House of Assembly to be elected. He assisted the senators, and he assisted the House of Representative members. For this reason, that he wants to have control of both the governance of the state, the structure of the party in the state, and the resources of the state. This is the condition in the state. The president by now should have had enough intelligence to tell him that the situation in Rivers State is pure disagreement between former governor and current governor over control of resource, not the issue of crisis. For this reason, he said he helped the assembly to be elected. He hold on to the assembly. The assembly is no longer working for the state. The assembly is working for him, FCT minister. If you look at the House of Reps, we have 13 House of Reps. It's only 5 that is talking with the governor. The rest of them are with him. The 3 senators, none of them is talking to the governor. They are talking with Nyesom Wike. So what exactly does Nyesom Wike want in this state? Control of resource, control of structure, control of the governor. The president should have enough intelligence. We don't have any crisis in this state. As we speak, a state of emergency has been declared. The sole administrator is here. Tell me where there is crisis in the state as we speak. The sole administrator doesn't have any work in this state because there is no emergency anywhere. Rivers State is as peaceful as the water. What is the sole administrator doing now? Removing the secretary to state government in the office and appointing a new one. Asking the head of service to resign and appoint a new one. Asking the local government, head of local government to come and submit activities of local government. Are this part of the emergency in the state? Asking existing structure, civil servant to show what they are doing at the local government in the past 2 years. Is it emergency? Come to Rivers State, there is no deployment of police, army, navy, air force anywhere to show you that there is emergency. I was at the state headquarters of the police 2 days ago. All the police they deployed to the state, they are sleeping, they are suffering. They can't be deployed to anywhere because there is no emergency. So for the president to declare the emergency in the first place is an anomaly. It's unacceptable to us and it's not in consonance with the Constitution of the Federal Republic. And going further, even if the Constitution gave him the power to declare emergency, the Constitution did not give him the power to suspend or sack a sitting governor or the State House of Assembly. We condemn it, we reject it in its totality because none of the conditions listed by the Constitution is existent in Rivers State.
Now, the president seemed to lay a lot of blame on Governor Sim Fubara in his speech declaring the state of emergency. He believes that the governor did not comply with the terms of the peace agreement. The governor also did not comply with the ruling of the Supreme Court regarding the matter representing the budget and others. Also, the Attorney General of the Federation, that's Mr. Lateef Fagbemi, also said that Mr. Wike's name did not come up for mention because he was not the one that orchestrated the bombing of the State House of Assembly. And, you know, the governor was meant to be the chief security officer of the state. So how then do we reconcile this position? You are laying the blame at the feet of Nyesom Wike, who is in Abuja, but the president and the Attorney General of the Federation are silent on him. How do we reconcile the two positions?
Well, what is happening in the state is what I may describe as seizure, overthrow of civilian government in the state by the All Progressive Congress. The president is All Progressive Congress. Nyesom Wike is an appointee of the All Progressive Congress. The Attorney General of the Federation is an appointee of the All Progressive Congress. First, let me start with the peace accord. They finished in Abuja. One of the conditions in the peace accord is that go and withdraw all litigations in court. Fubara came, withdrew all. Allow the State House of Assemblies to sit. Fubara allowed it. But they on their own did not withdraw any of their matter. The House was sitting. Fubara was complying. It was a gradual process. It's not automatic. It's not something that can be done overnight. Fubara commenced the implementation. But on their own, they reneged on their part. That was what gave rise to the collapse of that peace accord. On the Supreme Court judgment, if you look at that judgment, I'm educated, I'm not an illiterate, even if I'm not a lawyer. If a politician talks, you understand. If a high court judge writes something, you understand. If something is coming out of the Court of Appeal from the judges, you understand. If a Supreme Court justice talks and writes, you understand. You discover that the Supreme Court judgment was written and given to the men to read. That is to say you the level of corruption in Nigeria. They have destroyed the legislature, they have destroyed the executive, they have destroyed the judiciary. Before that judgment, two judgments came out. One came out uncertified true copy of that's exactly what was read in the court. We have it before they read that judgment. And when the judgment was read, we waited for the certified true copy. Lo and behold, what came to us was that same judgment we saw before the judgment. Unsigned, I have the two copies. At the end of this interview, I will transmit the two through your people to you. You will see the unsigned one and signed one, exactly the same. Is that how judiciary work? Is that how the Supreme Court of Nigeria should work?
Well,
going forward, the Attorney General heaped on the blame on the governor. If we know that if anybody wants to kill a dog, you look for a name, a bad name to give that dog. Everybody in Rivers State, both citizens and residents, know that sin cannot throw a stone. Sin Fubara cannot throw a stone. Sin Fubara cannot even see an ant and match it. The troublemaker is Yeso Wike. Yeso Wike want to seize control of the structure of the state to enable him have access to the treasury of the state. I don't know whether the president was misled into taking the action. I don't know. The Attorney General, whether he acted in good faith, I will say he didn't act in good faith because they did not have enough intelligence. If they have enough intelligence, they will tell you that Yeso, for them not to even mention Yeso Wike, FCT minister, is to tell you the high level of conspiracy in the entire exercise. And going to the judiciary too, you see that the conspiracy even entered the judiciary.
Well, Dr.
The Constitution says two-thirds, one by one voting, but they went on voice vote. Is that what the Nigerian Constitution says? The answer is no. They have corrupted the judiciary, they have corrupted the executive, they have also corrupted the legislature.
Well, on that note, Dr. Ewor, we must thank you.
Orchestrated by
Yeso Wike. Thank you so much for joining us here on Newsday. Dr. Robinson Ewor is the acting chairman of the Rivers State chapter of the Democratic Party. Thank you.